1938 was a tense and uncertain year for the world. The Great Depression had dragged on for nearly a decade, leaving millions in poverty and anxiety. Only 20 years had passed since the devastation of World War I, and now Europe once again seemed on the brink of conflict. That March, Adolf Hitler annexed Austria in the Anschluss, and by September, the Munich Agreement allowed Germany to seize part of Czechoslovakia, the Sudetenland. War had been narrowly avoided, but everyone knew it was only a matter of time. In the United States, this atmosphere of fear and instability echoed through radio broadcasts. News updates, dramatic bulletins, and grim reports poured in daily, making radio not only the main source of information, but also a lifeline for households, reaching nearly 80% of Americans by the late 1930s. Networks like CBS, NBC, and Mutual competed fiercely for listeners, while dramatic programming was starting to evolve. Shows such as The March of Time, created by the publishers of Time magazine, blended journalism with theatrical flair, offering dramatized news segments and even top 10 style features long before they became common. It was in this cultural environment that a 23-year-old prodigy named Orson Welles staged what would become one of the most infamous broadcasts in American history. His Mercury Theater on the Air adapted H.G. Wells' 1898 science fiction novel, The War of the Worlds. In the book, Martians fleeing their dying planet land in England with terrifying machines, tripods armed with heat rays and black smoke that crush humanity's defenses. Britain's mighty navy, its armies, even its cities crumble until the invaders are ultimately defeated not by weapons, but by Earth's microbes. The Martians had no immunity and they perished from disease. For radio, Wells and his team reimagined the story. They shifted the setting from Victorian England to contemporary New Jersey, writing the script in just a few days. Inspired by earlier hoaxes, like a 1926 BBC parody broadcast of a communist uprising, Wells decided to present War of the Worlds as a series of urgent news bulletins. His idea was simple but groundbreaking. Blur the line between fiction and reality. The broadcast aired on October 30th, 1938, the night before Halloween. It opened with a disclaimer. The Columbia Broadcasting System presents Orson Welles and the Mercury Theater on the Air in The War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells, before sliding seamlessly into a fake program, a weather report, some dance music from a fictional orchestra, then sudden news flashes. At first, they were small. Astronomers noting strange explosions on Mars, then reports of a meteor crash in Grover's Mill, New Jersey. Soon, the news escalated. A cylinder opened, releasing a Martian war machine armed with a heat ray that incinerated police, soldiers, and even a live reporter, whose screams cut to dead air. The story unfolded in real time. Martians advancing in towering tripods, releasing clouds of black smoke, attacking New York. Church bells rang, people drowned in rivers, and ham radio operators pleaded for survivors. Between these segments, only a single reminder was given that the broadcast was fiction, but many tuned in too late to hear it. The second half shifted to a survivor's monologue. Professor Pearson, wandering through ruined cities, scavenging for food, meeting a delusional soldier, and finally witnessing the Martians' downfall, not by human hands, but by bacteria. As Wells closed, he reminded listeners it had all been a Halloween special. But for many, the damage was done. Some panicked, calling police or leaving their homes to warn neighbors. Newspapers the next day exaggerated the chaos with dramatic headlines, radio listeners in panic taking war drama as fact. Stories circulated of mass evacuations, mobs in the streets, even suicides. Hitler himself mocked the episode as proof of Western decadence. In truth, the panic was overstated. Polls showed only a fraction of Americans actually heard the broadcast, and most realized it was drama. Still, it reached millions, caused local surges in phone traffic, and cemented Wells's fame. Within 2 years, he signed a Hollywood contract to make Citizen Kane, now considered one of the greatest films ever made. But what if War of the Worlds had been real? What if, on that October night in 1938, Martians actually landed in New Jersey? According to Wells's version, the invasion was brief but devastating, lasting just hours. New York suffered mass casualties, though much of its infrastructure survived. Panic would freeze the stock market, close ports, and spark bank runs. Roosevelt would likely declare martial law, mobilize the National Guard, and launch federal recovery programs. Scientists would rush to study Martian wreckage, heat rays, alloys, tripods. But reverse engineering such advanced technology would take decades. Internationally, Hitler and other powers would be skeptical at first, but undeniable evidence of Martian machines would eventually force global acknowledgement. The League of Nations might call emergency sessions, while Germany and Japan would watch America nervously, fearful the US might weaponize alien technology. Yet, as World War II loomed, their ambitions in Europe and Asia would not stop. Religion and culture would be shaken. The existence of intelligent extraterrestrials would raise deep theological questions. Did Martians have souls? Were they part of God's creation? For many, the event would be framed as apocalyptic, a warning of the end times. At the same time, Americans would feel both vulnerable and proud. Despite alien superiority, humanity had survived. And what of Mars itself? If this was only a scouting force, would another wave come? With Earth's microbes as a hidden weapon, Martians might hesitate, but desperation on a dying world could still drive them back. Their next orbital alignment with Earth would come in 1941, coinciding with the height of World War II. Imagine the chaos. Tripods striding across occupied Europe, heat rays incinerating tanks, black smoke rolling across battlefields already scarred by war. Germany and America would scramble to seize the wreckage, each fearing the other's scientific gains. Such a second invasion might derail World War II itself, shifting priorities, delaying battles, and launching an arms race not for atomic bombs, but for Martian technology. Humanity's divisions could prove as dangerous as the Martians themselves. And that is where the story leaves us. In 1938, it was only radio drama. But for a brief moment, Orson Welles convinced thousands that the end of the world had arrived, and in doing so revealed how fragile trust, fear, and reality could be in an anxious age.